Kevin, you said you were going to make an effort to meet some new friends? So how's that going? I think interacting with new people would do you good out here.
I don't think I'm ready yet.
I have an idea. I know you don't like pills.
Doc.
This is going to make you feel a lot better. Just try it. You can always stop.
All right, we are back with Collin O'Brien, filmmaker, working. Thank you, Collin, for being here. Working by day.
Thank you, Kostya.
Oh, my pleasure. Working the hustle, doing the hustle. You've got director, producer, first AD is the daytime gig in LA stuff that you're doing. And then on this film that we're be talking about today, Finding Happy, you wrote, you directed, and you edited it, and you did a killer job. It's awesome.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and set up the film for us, please.
That's right. So I'm a director, producer, first AD out here in LA. I've been working in the film industry for almost 10 years now. I work in narrative films, TV, feature. I also do branded content as a producer, director, music videos, documentaries. I won an Emmy as an associate producer for an unscripted TV show. So
nice.
Still climbing, still
Wow.
working at it.
Wow.
And what's interesting is I didn't start in film. I started as an engineer working in the oil industry. I wasn't sure what the film industry would be like when it came time to, choose a major in college. And so I decided to choose a fallback. And so I wanted to get some real life experience, take some time to figure out what that roadmap to filmmaking would be like. And I had no idea I'd get myself into oil and experience that whole world. So I think getting a background in that, kind of opening your eyes to a lot of different situations, getting a lot of experience, really helped me in my transition into the film industry, because I really fell into being a first AD, managing a set, just like I was managing a field operation out in the oil industry. So that really helped to catapult me into the film industry. So
I bet. I mean, when you come in it with having, for lack of a better word, real life experience, you have experience working with people on a big project or a project of any size. And then you have a sense of, okay, roles, hierarchy, management, structure, and how communication should flows. And that is so critical in making a film wherever you are, just finding out, the communication process and how to contribute most effectively to a great team, because it is a team sport for sure. We're going to be talking about, what's that?
Especially on this one too. It was a lot of help. You need a lot of help when you're making student films, and you just love the people collaborating and helping you out to create something.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, they're long hours and you're out there, and the body gets fatigued and you gotta stay with it and stay the course and get what you need. On this project, Finding Happy, it came out really well. Really fun project, enjoyed watching it. Can you give us a sense of the storyline, and we'll take it from there?
Yeah. I mean, I'll just read out the log line here. A young professional away from home finds it difficult to cope in a professional setting and turns to prescription medicine to help find happiness. So,
yeah, and kind of to restate it in a little bit more just conversational language. It's like you got this guy, he's seems to have transplanted to a new area. He's doesn't know anyone. He's trying to fit in. He doesn't really have any friends at work. He wants to be friendly with people. There's this girl that he met, caught a glimpse of at work, and he's dying to go to lunch, and no, they just they kind of overlooked him. Nobody thought about him. So it's this guy who seems to get easily overlooked. He's not out there kind of advocating for himself in terms of making friends. Hey, would you like to do this, that, the other? He's kind of just playing it cool, but inside he really wants to connect with people. And he's going home every day, throwing his, microwave lunch in or dinner and, taking a shower and going to bed at 8:30, doing it all over again. He's staring at a monitor, looking at some, computational 3D stuff, and it doesn't seem to be too sexy or inspiring. And he's just, getting it done. And he sees a therapist because he's depressed, seemingly, or at
Yeah.
very least he's not happy. She
Yeah.
gives him a prescription and it changes his life. Now, I don't know if you want me to, give away some bit of the ending or not. I'll let you do that. But it's all good.
Yeah.
Um,
It's all good.
yeah, well, the prescription isn't what you think, right? It isn't what
Interesting
he
to
thought
talk.
it was. What's
Yeah.
that?
No, it's interesting to talk about the ending because it can mean multiple things, right? Depending on who watches it. So I'm
Well,
curious.
I definitely, and so it's the the prescription that he thinks is having an effect. It's really not that that's having an effect on him. So, but he's changed. He's a changed man. He goes out and he's got confidence. He's
Yeah, it gathers confidence. He goes out to actually meet the people that he'd been wanting to meet. He meets the girl, right? But in
yes,
the end, it, it's not an actual prescription medicine. It's a placebo. It's a sugar,
yes. Thank
right?
you. Yeah.
But he doesn't care. And so that's the other thing is like no one would expect. And this is the kind of a humorous take on it is that he doesn't care what it is, pill or not. It tricked his mind into thinking that maybe he had more confidence, that he was better at whatever it was he was doing. And you know what? Maybe there's more of these placebos out there that could help me out in different ways. So I could start chaining up different prescriptions,
Right. Right. He's just
downers,
keep it coming.
pre-workouts,
Yeah.
Adderall. You can say folks that work. It's like,
Yeah.
I want to trick my brain however I can.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now that, the audience has a full perspective on kind of the narrative arc and what we're talking about here and the
And
themes,
thank you for that. You did a great job with it. Thank you.
appreciate it, appreciate it. So with that said, it's like, where is it in your life experience, in your psyche, in your process of creation that you were like, okay, I've got this idea, this little germinal idea, and I am going to invest my time, effort into making it come true. How did that spark come alive for you?
This was made back in 2017. So I was going to film school at the time. Every morning I'd wake up and I'd listen to the news and I would hear about the opioid epidemic. It was constant. Every morning they'd be talking about it. At the same time, I was going to film school and I just wanted to create. So I had that bug. I had the wheels turning constantly on different ideas, whatever it may be. There was a student there, Scott Levesque, who was a very funny guy, always laughing, always cracking up. And he loved to act. He wanted to be in everybody's short. He had that kind of eagerness about him, which I loved. And so I always had him on the other side of my mind, right? So I'd listen about the opioid epidemic, but then I know about Scott Levesque and his humor. So myself, sometimes I naturally turn to humor. So eventually those two ideas merged and I took a bit of a tragic idea, but put some humor to it. So it's more easy to digest, but hopefully allows people to kind of think about the idea, think about what they saw, and think about the decisions that were made in the film. So
Mm,
that's the whole
mm,
reason
mm.
that I know when I can pull the trigger on something is when I have something that not only tells, a little bit of a story, but is there a question at the end? It makes people think. Are they curious to learn more? You know?
Yeah.
Um, so that's when I decide, you know what? I need to tell this story. I need to get it out there.
So it sounds like you've got, you had this creative material to work with, Scott Levesque, and you said, all right, how do I merge that with this really crisis that's going on? I mean, people are desperate for help. They're, going to these extreme means to try to get some sort of relief, try to get some sort of happiness, try to get high from the mundane kind of threat that they experience. And, you planted this within this humorous construct where this is kind of a guy going through the daily grind. I mean, he goes through the daily grind and his all his like traditional kind of attachments are gone. So there's nothing
Right.
there but himself. And he's forced to find happiness and kind of sink or swim. He can continue, yeah, or go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the other thing too, is that the therapist is involved in this too.
Yeah,
So he's trying to do what he can, but he doesn't know, you know. Um, what I think the theme of this really is, happiness is found from within, right? It was within him the whole time. If he pushed just a little bit harder, all he had to do was just step outside and try to play basketball. All he had to do was try to go to that farmer's market, make his own food instead of microwaving his own freezer dinners, right? Um, so the other thing was the therapist is that you could see in the beginning is that the therapist also has kind of a mix of Eastern and Western medicine, right? They have the Buddhist head. So you could sense that maybe that therapist tries to work as hard as they can to help that person from within, to help them do it on their own. But then at a certain time, now this no experience on my own. This is just taking place in this film. I have nothing against, prescription medicine that people need, whatever it may be. But in this film, uh, at a certain point, maybe the therapist just kind of, I would say, gives up and says, I don't know what else to do. Let me give him the prescription pills for this. So
well,
as an easy, like, hey, prescription medicine, it seems like at times it's like, well, if you have this feeling, take this. If you have this,
right.
take this, right?
Certainly our culture.
Yeah, we see it on commercials all the time, and it's kind of scary, especially when they start rattling off the side effects at the end. Oh, they almost sound worse than the problem that you're actually having.
Absolutely, yeah. And you got that in the film. And now I'm so glad that you kind of already broached this subject because that's the second question is, what is the meaning of the movie? And I think you've said part of it that the meaning is yes, happiness is an internal quality. And it's cool that you used as you were kind of formulating the idea, you've got this Scott LeBest guy who's just naturally funny and he's kind of outgoing and he wants to be and he's an active guy and he sounds like he's a happy guy if he's always making jokes.
Yeah.
So he's sort of the epitome of happiness coming from within. What I thought when I was watching this and thinking and reflecting about the meaning, what's even more interesting to me than happiness coming from within is the quality, the way you've kind of captured happiness as an act of faith.
Hmm.
It becomes a belief. If I believe I'm happy, then I am happy. If I have faith in happiness, it then it exists. So
Right.
that's coming in with the pill, right? The pill, oh, well, the pill doesn't work. It's a placebo pill, but he believed it.
Right.
So he believed in his own state that he was transformed, and so he could transform it. What are your thoughts?
So that's the thing is I was someone he in the beginning he didn't want any prescription medicine. You could see that he was shying away from it. Like he's not a big fan of pills in the first place, right? So this is new to him. So at a certain point, he feels that, he has to take it. He's done with it. He puts everything down and decides to take the pill, right? And get that reaction. So he gave up in a sense. But in the end, the therapist didn't realize what she had created, what she had done. Turns out this guy is become an addict. He is thrilled with this feeling, whatever it may be, this happiness that seems to have come from these magical pills, that he devotes that faith in a sense to that medicine. If that medicine can do this, what else can it do in different ways, right? It reminds me of the scene from Wolf of Wall Street, where he's like, I take like 14 Quaaludes a day. I take Adderall to stay focused. I
Right, right,
do
right.
that, right? So it's kind of scary when people like chain things together and you hear about people doing that, and that's scary. And that's kind of also a big lesson for the therapist in a way of saying, oh, I kind of took the easy route, but now I've given this guy faith in these pills to where, and this is where I end off, is saying, oh, I wonder what the real thing is like. And he says marijuana. Now I could have done something more edgy and said like maybe mushrooms or something more natural that way. That some people would be like, oh yeah, that's actually not bad. And there are other people would be like, oh, don't do that. I wouldn't do that. So at least it makes people kind of think and makes them ask themselves, would I do that? So that's his faith, and that's where he's putting his worship.
Right, right. Well, see, and that's why it's funny because he doesn't get it, right? He
Yeah.
doesn't ultimately get it. And that's why it's also in the credits. It, kind of takes the backdrop of the narrative and the credits roll on that scene, because you've got this picture, you've got this Buddhist kind of setup, this kind of Zen, this guy who wants to go organic. He surrenders to help. I can't do this. I can't do this on my own. I need a therapist. The therapist is doing it. I'll take the pills. I surrender. I give up. And there is that like quality in a religious experience where there's surrender is a necessary built-in thing. You surrender your will to a higher power. In this case, the higher power is
Yeah, that's a
the
good take.
placebo. So and that's where the joke is, right? He just doesn't get it. He doesn't get that the higher power is within him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So
a good take on it. I love your description of it.
thanks, man. Thank you. That's my job. So, that said, I think is there any when you watch the film now as a viewer, right, 4 years out, um, what do you take away from the film?
I could polish the edit, fix some of the sound effects a little bit. I mean, I was lucky. I had such a great crew to work with me. I mean, my DP AJ Silva is incredible. He worked with me on my following film, Prairie Pirates, was a Western. If you check out that trailer, I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Wow.
But he really helped out with that. I mean, if you look at Irma Ramirez, I mean, she wore multiple hats. She was first AC, she was grip, she was doing this and that. Judith Eisenberg as an actress, wonderful working with her. She really helped me become a better director. She was such a great actress. So tons of great people to work with. Now, besides that, there's times I haven't seen it in a little while since I made it in 2017. We decided to have this chat about it. And I watched it again, and I still chuckle at some of these scenes, right? So I can appreciate that. And things change over the years, right? With drugs, and I mean, we have big pharma and what they're doing. I still think the same way as it did before, but what's interesting, what's crazy is sometimes how life happens is I love listening to podcasts, whatever it may be. I happened to be listening to a podcast just yesterday. I had to write his name down to make sure I remembered. There's this, I guess, popular psychoanalyst called Dr. James Hollis who came on. And he started talking about the goal of life is meaning, not happiness. I mean, podcast was on random. It just, once I finished one, it goes to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, that's interesting. And he said, oh, in order to find happiness, you have to find meaning first. From meaning, you get happiness. And it's that purpose, what you're trying to do. And he told an interesting story. I guess he was very successful. I think I could be wrong, tenured professor, whatever it may be, very comfortable life. Seemed happy, but all of a sudden he became depressed. He didn't know what was happening. So he did some searching within, some digging, and he realized I need to go back to school. And he studied several years to become a psychoanalyst and is now helping people with their problems. And now he's truly happy.
Yeah.
For there was a crutch and he didn't realize. So it's one of those things where, if you're depressed and everything, now I'm not saying, don't take antidepressants or anything like that, because they're absolutely needed, but just comparing it to this story and how similar it is,
I think it's a
that
great point.
he searched within, found out that, hey, I wasn't actually liking this, found out who he was, better understood himself, and went a different path. And what's interesting is I take that kind of as my own story as well, is because I always wanted to be in filmmaking. I didn't know how to approach it, so instead I got a degree in mechanical engineering and I started working in the oil industry. Now, definitely wasn't a fan of what I was doing. And so at a certain point, you kind of reach your peak and you have to get out. And that helped me to the transition into the film industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
helped me catapult into that. So that's
Yeah.
kind of similar ideas, finding your happiness, whatever it may be. I mean, I
Yeah.
went from, being well paid, living a comfortable life, to being a broke college student again. and man, I was so happy,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because I was doing what I was wanting to do.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of comparisons to it, a lot of similarities.
Yeah. Making meaning of your
That's
life.
yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Thanks for saying that. That's a huge, huge point. Um, Colin, since you've made this film, how has your life personally changed?
That's a good question. Um, you know, since I started as an engineer and I went into the film industry, you know, I've never made my own short before. So I didn't want to gamble on a degree in the film industry, not knowing, am I a good filmmaker? Because I don't want to find out senior year when I finally make a thesis, because that's how the program was at the school I would have gone to, and find out, oh, I shouldn't have done this. So that's why I decided to do that fallback and get that stable career and do it that way. Now, when I got into the film school and I started creating my own, I knew that, well, this is going to be proof. This is going to tell me whether or not I should stay here or not. What are people going to think of this? Now, I was very lucky that I was able to win several awards with this one. I mean, thank you, AJ Silva, best cinematography, but it won best comedy, best short film, Audience Choice Award. So it won several different awards from a couple different festivals, and I knew that, you know, I think I might have it, so I want to keep going with it. So ever since, it's been
So was this the first short that you made?
one of the first ones. I mean, all the other ones are kind of class projects that you seem to kind of
Yeah,
throw together, but this is my dedicated short that I worked on, that,
got it.
you know, I put
Awesome.
that thought into the story and everything. So I feel like, you know, if I keep doing that, I keep
Yeah,
going. I mean, I have several others. I mean, I made a claymation stop motion as my very first short.
nice.
Pretty simple, yeah. I shot a little Western on a 16 mm Scoopik. Now
Okay.
that, yeah, that one was fun, but that also taught me that you really need to measure instead of estimating. I felt like my engineering skills and distances was pretty good, and I could be a little rough, but you
Uh-huh.
really have to be exact, especially in low light. So that was
Uh-huh.
one of my first films and learning about lighting, cinematography, and
Cool.
that was a great lesson.
I bet. I
But luck,
bet.
I mean, what a great team, and it's found a way to make it work if you
Yeah.
check it. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it really helped me to feel confident in what I was
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
and moving forward.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
helped me out.
Yeah. Now it's a very cinematic work. Well done, Colin O'Brien, filmmaker. Thank you for being on Play It Forward. Till next time, everybody. Peace on Play It Forward. Colin, see you later. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So much, Garcia. Appreciate it.
All right.